Champions Finals. My name is Scoundrel and I'm joined by Orcs on the desk. Now, before we jump into all of the housework that I've got to do before we get going, dude, we're here.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the finals. We've got our 4 teams in Barcelona and we are ready to go.
All the teams are here. They've been practicing at gaming cafes earlier on, but they're all ready to compete. And that's the thing, a lot on the line, that EU Masters spot in the group stages for the first place team.
Obviously, Enclave have already got it, but those other 3 teams will be vying for that European Masters spot. Now, if you want to follow the action and check out action that we've had previously, you can go to YouTube at LVP UK and you can check out all of the videos that we have there, as well as all the videos that will be available from these finals should you want to relive those moments. If you want to check us out on Twitter, Twitter is LVP UK. And obviously you can use the hashtag for the finals. Now we've had Forge of Champions 1, 2, 3, 4. It is the finals, so it's hashtag Forge of Champions Finals. And we do want to hear from you. We read everything personally, the casters especially. Yeah,
actually, whenever we go off screen, we do just have a look at our phones, read through. So if you've got any criticism for me of Scoundrel, please don't post it. I don't want to hurt my feelings.
But if you do have any thoughts on the teams, or who you think is going to win, who your favourite teams are, your favourite players, we would love to hear it. We may even get the opportunity to feature some of that on stream. So if you want to get your tweet featured on stream, as long as it's not too spicy, we will put it up there.
Yeah, limited amount of spiciness, like a mild at Nando's, probably.
Like a lemon and herb?
Lemon and herb.
I don't know, that's probably a bit weak. What's the one up from a lemon and herb?
I think it's just medium.
Oh, medium.
Yeah.
If it's medium spice, we'll take it.
Yeah, if it's very hot, not a chance. Sorry about that.
Right, so we have Forge of Champions, obviously, finals. How did we get here, though? It's been 4 individual qualifying tournaments, of which I believe DIABOLUS won the first, XL won the second, then it was Enclave that won the third, and then Misfits won the fourth. So all 4 teams that we got here all individually won a Forge of Champions tournament at some point.
Yeah, which I just think it shows how neck and neck this whole thing is. I think it's hard to predict who will come out on top at the end. I guess you can make the argument that because DIABOLUS won the first one and they've had a fuller form since then, but they've changed their roster significantly. And the thing is that teams put a lot of prep in for the finals. I think it's a hard one to call.
I think a lot of people have their favorites coming into this. Obviously, I've seen a lot of talk about it on Twitter. A lot of the teams feeling super confident, as they should do coming here. We've had some changes to rosters, which makes it even more interesting. I think, for me, find it quite hard to call. I think both series will be close.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that was interesting as well is in the round before this, XL and Enclave were the higher 2 seed teams who, on paper, were facing 2 weaker teams. They ended up dropping a game in those series, whereas the other 2, Misfits and DIABOLUS, has got clean 2-0s.
So you can see on screen, guys, this is just a small highlight section of what we've seen over the last couple of Forge of Champions. This was Prosfair's single-handed Baron prevent with the escape that got him out of there as well. That was really awesome. Someone that we really want to see perform at this particular weekend is, or this week rather, is Sendo, who has had a little bit of a lackluster second half of Forge of Champions, but when he was on form on Urgot top, this was his pentakill, Dan. Yeah,
they get a massive pentakill, and particularly on Urgot, that's a champ you don't normally see pentakills on, but the thing is, he's had some shaky performances since then, and I'd say that Sendo hasn't been the most consistent player. Which Sendo will we see today when he does have his game, which will be the second series of the evening.
Second series of the evening, because the first series is, of course, going to be Enclave versus DIABOLUS. And speaking of Enclave, the man of the moment for them, they are a player that a lot of people call the one-dimensional aspect of Enclave. It is Rifty. You're not going to see him playing Darius, I feel, especially if you've got Blummagan, who is going to be the coach of DIABOLUS, going up against him. I just feel like it's a ban for Rifty.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that he's up against Flaxish. Flaxish is the most experienced top laner we have here. He has played in the LCS. And I think it's going to come down to which team can facilitate the top lane better, because no, both of them, Flaxish and Rift, are great if they can get a lead.
They're both very similar styles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, last time we saw them match up in, well, I believe in Forge of Champions 1 when they matched up and DIABOLUS actually won out, it was Flaxish solo killed Rift in a tank vs tank matchup.
Here's a little bit of a commiseration one. This is Shockwave and his big, massive Shockwave versus XL that gave them essentially the winning play of that game. This actually turned around the game on its head and allowed them to take the Baron and eventually take the victory here. But M&M didn't live up to expectations coming into this. They didn't have the strongest roster in the world. I think it was kind of like a steadfast roster, you would call it. But unfortunately, they didn't make it to our finals. And you can see here, this is another one of Munkus's special. He's probably got the most Baron steals out of any jungler in the Forge of Champions right now. He is a monster in that pit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big thing to worry about, because often when you want to go for a Baron, there are some situations where you're like, we can push for 50-50, but you normally want to try and zone the jungler out. But against Enclave, I feel like you don't want to take that risk. That could really throw the series for yourself.
He has got an unnatural ability to be able to smite very, very well.
D key. Or is it his FP?
I don't
Not
know.
sure. Yeah,
One of the two.
One of the two. He just has a great talent.
He's like from Rayman, where you see the numbers going past the head, and he's like, smite range, bang!
Lands
just gets it
perfectly every time.
Every time. Okay, so that is Forge of Champions, obviously. We have a wonderful setup here. Yes, and well, this is still Forge of Champions. We are still here. We have a wonderful setup. We've got a wonderful trophy to show you guys as well, because the trophy was specially made for this particular tournament. It is beautiful. It is very big, and HipRain is going to talk a little bit about how wonderful this trophy is.
I mean, just look at it. It looks absolutely insane, the trophy here. There are 4 teams competing for that and 1 more spot at the European Masters. So we've got 2 days of games coming up, and we're going to be finding out who takes away this trophy and also who takes that last spot to the European Masters. So, Gandrel, let's get into game.
I couldn't agree more, HipRain. We are very close to getting into our first semi-final of the night, but that trophy looks gorgeous, Dan. I mean, just they were hyping it up a lot, and then they brought it out, and I was like, this is a trophy.
I mean, it's cool because normally you have your standard design trophies, but it has the logo from 4G Champions. There is no doubt that is a 4G Champions
branding
logo.
on point for it.
Yeah,
well
very good, very well done. But speaking of the EU Masters spot, is the fact that, I mean, it's not just Enclave who are going to want to win this. If Misfits and XL get through to the finals and they're against Enclave, then they will take Enclave's spot in the play-ins. So if Enclave beats them, but if they're against Enclave, they still get a spot in the EU Masters. So I think both of those teams are really hoping that Diabolus falls short here. And so Diabolus are essentially playing upset. If they do take this spot, then that means Enclave have to go home with, you know, their play-in spot secure, but they're still fighting for that group stage spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it is that one EU Master spot. I think a lot of the teams will say, I'd love to be the champion of the UK. That's a massive accolade. There's a huge amount of prize money on the line as well. But we need that ability to show our stuff on the greater stage as well. All of the teams that are here, especially XL, who have been at the EU Masters before as well and had a great performance for the UK, they will want to make sure that they put themselves in a position where they could potentially find that. And Misfits will be looking for redemption from the EU Masters as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big thing as well is that the difference between group stage and play-ins is going to be huge. 2 teams will get through from play-ins. There will be 8 teams in total. And when you look at some of the other regions, like France, like Spain, it'll be a hard one to push through for Enclave or whoever else ends up taking that play-in spot, and I think you would definitely want to secure that group stage spot. And
let's not forget Diabolus, who were ticked as being one of the best teams in the UK of the previous Premiership, missed out on their European Masters spot, never got the opportunity to get to that big stage, and so they will be very hungry, especially having brought in a couple new players and their coach Blummigan as well. And they've really prepped for this final.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is because last split, 4 teams from the UK ended up going to EU Masters. Enclave went in the play-ins. Wind and Rain went off their Challenger Series spot. XL went from winning the split before Prem, and Misfits from winning that split. So they all got to show their stuff. And there was 4 teams. This time there's only 2 teams from the UK, 2 from all the other regions. So there's a lot more on the line. You can't just say, oh, we got to the top 4. Because that's what happened last time. The teams who got to the top 4 were guaranteed a spot at EU Masters. You could take your foot off the pedal a bit. It's not the case here. Even for Enclave, who already have that play-in spot secured, to go into this grand finals and win the whole thing, secure that group stage spot, and just show you are the #1 team in the UK, it's got to be a big motivator.
So guys, we do have our bracket to show you now as well, and you can see exactly how we got to this position. Enclave beat Barrage 2-1 in a quarterfinal. Wind and Rain were knocked aside by Diabolus 2-0, and that sets up our semi-final between Enclave and Diabolus. XL, they had a bit of a struggle versus Hyperion. That third game was squeaky bum time, I like to call it, because they had to make a massive, massive comeback. And Misfits versus M&M, that was a 2-0 for them, and that sets up the XL versus Misfits semi-final.
And that's the thing, is that XL and Enclave, again, they were 1st and 2nd seed. They were against the 8th and 7th seed, so in theory they should have had the easier run to get to this point, and yet they went 2-1. So does throw things a bit into question.
Well, considering they were the dominant team until the very last day of Forge of Champions 4.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Enclave, we were saying they were gearing up, they're getting stronger and stronger, and then it was the change in mid lane for Misfits brought them back from a team who we thought were really underperforming to a team who showed a lot of prevalence and a lot of dominance in that 4G Champion 4. And again, they have another substitution here, now going to be running with Special. But, you know, that's talked about the 2nd series. They should focus on Series 1, where, again, Diabolus, lots of changes.
So we have a poll for you guys, by the way, if you want to get involved. We want to hear your thoughts in Twitch chat, I believe, and it will be voting for the team you most likely want to see win. It is going to be between Enclave and Diabolus to kick things off, so you can follow the instructions in Twitch chat or just spam your favorite team. I would just spam your favorite team personally, but this is going to be a close one. I think a lot of people coming into this series would have said, Enclave versus Diabolus. I'm favouring Diabolus, but some shifts have happened. Roster changes are there. Some coaching patterns have changed as well. I think this is shaping up to be a very even series.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think some people would have said that way, but some people would have said the other way. You know, Enclave are the #1 seed coming into this tournament, and off the back of Rift, they've made some really solid performances. And Diabolus have struggled since that 4G Champions 1, but the thing is, they have overhauled their roster. They brought in MTest and AD carry role. They brought in Bolulu in the mid lane, and they have a new coach. It really makes things difficult because everyone knows what they're expecting from Enclave.
Yeah.
We've seen them play all through 4G Champions. We've seen this roster. Nothing has changed drastically unless they've prepared it. Whereas with Diabolus, it's essentially a pretty big change. Two members of their normal roster and then also the coaching staff. It could be a completely different team you're up against, and I think that's the challenge for Enclave, is that they're played in a best of 3. They have 1 game leeway to sort of work out what they have to do against this team, and if they fail, then they're out of the tournament.
So I'm going to pose a question to you, Dan, just before we get into the real meat of this semi-final. A lot of people saw Enclave without Rift, and they didn't look good. Enclave have got Rift back now. Do you feel like that is a one dimension for them? Do you think they've got more in the tank than just Rift popping off?
I think I spoke a bit to the Enclave guys, and it wasn't so much the fact that Rift is a massively superior player to Prelude. It was more what Rift offers in terms of a voice in the team who has that confidence, who can sort of fill the noise, fill the silence when there is any, and provide some noise so the team feel more confident and then make better plays in the back of him. Apparently, when they didn't have him, they just slowly lost the game.
And no one was saying anything.
Yeah, no one was saying anything. So it's a big confidence thing. But the thing is, I think in other matchups, you might expect Rift to dominate. As we saw when he plays up against Kerberos, he's very prevalent in that matchup. Up against Flaxis, this is a top laner with LCS experience. He's played in the Spanish region at the top level. I don't think you can just expect Rift to dominate the top lane and then win.
It's funny you say that, because Flaxis has had like some incredible performances, and he's had some performances where he literally ran it down top.
But you say that, so is Rift, because in their first matchup in 4G Champion 1, it was Cho'Gath against Mundo. Flaxis was on Mundo, and he solo killed him.
True.
So it can go either way. I think it's how the teams play around it and how they facilitate their top laners, but it's definitely going to be a lane to watch this series.
Well, look, you've heard enough from us about the teams. We have a short video where the teams talked a little bit about their expectations.
Against Diabolus, I think that we have the upper hand. Even though they are a completely new team, we have never faced them before, I still believe in 2-0.
Against Enclave, I feel like we're going to be pretty good now that we have a coach, and we have been improving a lot recently, and yeah, everyone in the team feels really confident.
So you can see a little bit of confidence coming out from both sides here, especially from Eren. Eren, he was just saying, yeah, they've made some changes, but it's 2-0, easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to go into this confidence. Again, you need to hit the ground running. Whichever team gets that first game gives you momentum for the second one. I mean, it's going to be a close series, no doubt.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, because we're going to introduce the teams very shortly. Just based on what you know so far, we haven't seen these teams play, but just given your analytical opinion, who do you think goes in as a favoured team?
I would say Diabolus, just based on their changes and how their team likes to play now. If this was a best of 5, I might have said differently, but I think Enclave's going to struggle to play against them because Bolulu's going to play defensive in the mid lane. It's hard for Eren to get a lead, and then NG playing around top lane means Rift is going to be that successful. And I think that in a 2v2 straight up, Anthrax and MTest will come out ahead, and I think because of that, it's just going to be a lot of overwhelming pressure for Enclave, unless Eren or Rift can pop off. I think they're going to struggle, so I think I would favour Diabolus coming into this.
Well, so in order for Enclave to secure the win, what do you think their win condition has to be here?
I think their win condition has to be, don't give up too much bot, because we saw in their series against Mirage, they start to lose a lot of ground there, and then get a lead for either Rift or Eren. I mean, it depends on what picks you can get. If you can pick up the Akali for Eren, that's a great pick, or potentially something aggressive along those lines. And then with Rift, it's getting a good counter pick, and then letting your jungler monkeys apply the pressure. That could lead them to getting a win, because those solo lanes are extremely strong. Problem is, the way Diabolus have shown they played in last round, I don't think they're going to let that happen easily.
Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think because Enclave coming as the higher seed, they get the choice of side for first game, I believe. Is that right?
I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah. So anyway, I will talk a little bit about that afterwards, because right now, we're going to introduce our teams to the stage. And introducing our first team, it is Enclave, Rift in the top lane, Monkeys in the jungle, mid lane is Eren, AD carry is Bendy, and Hado supporting him down there in bot. And all of these guys, you can see, talk to them beforehand, Rift especially feeling pretty confident here. And the team as well, Eren, you can see, we saw him stretching before, he had some funny comments to make, but their opposition is going to be Diabolus.
Yeah, so top laner, Blackfish, we have jungler, NG, mid laner, Bolulu, MTest, AD carry, and Anthrax support. Again, all confident, and we'll see them shake hands. They're not friends until after the game.
Each individual role shaking as well, I like that, just like, good game guys, you're my
Good
opposite number. And they are going to take their seats ready for the pick and ban phase. The coaches will join them on stage. And we'll be very shortly jumping into that first game of the Forge of Champions Finals, our semi-final between Enclave and Diabolus. It is a best of 3, and they really have to make these games count, especially that first one. You want to get that momentum swinging. I mean, I think if Enclave do pick up that first game, you could very well see that Eren predicted 2-0. But Diabolus are in a better place than they have ever been in Forge of Champions right now. Yeah,
I mean, they're in a similar form you'd expect them as they were in Forge of Champions 1. That's when we saw XL and Enclave really struggling. They did manage to work it back up, but Diabolus, they had to make big changes to the roster, and more importantly, their coaching staff. That's the thing, is that Enclave are running with the same coach for not just this split, but the last split, I. Hansen, who's done a standout job with the team and developed them over the split. Whereas Diabolus, they've brought in Bloomigan quite last minute, just for the finals, but he's a veteran coach, very experienced, and he started working with the team. He understands their strengths and weaknesses, and they feel confident as a result of that. Yeah, and Bloomigan has got a lot of experience in the Turkish leagues, in the Russian leagues. He's even had LCS, kind of sort of analyst experience as well. On
so
Fnatic.
On Fnatic, I think he was an analyst for Fnatic, so he's had a lot of experience to bring this to the sort of best possible level, and you can see there is I. Hansen on the left-hand side, and we have the pick and ban phase beginning. Poppy is the immediate ban here for Enclave, and that's off the board already, followed by Sejuani from Diabolus. Yeah, so the Poppy one's an interesting, because we've actually seen a bit of play of it going in the jungle with Predator. Similar to the Gragas jungle with Predator, it allows you to set up the ganks easily, so it's a twofold ban, whereas Diabolus just taking away the Sejuani. Actually, I believe that's Enclave taking away the Sejuani from Diabolus. Yeah, so that's actually you can see the top graphics, they just need to be switched over. We'll have that done at some point. Enclave, I believe, selected red side because they were the higher pick. But the Darius and Akali gets banned out by Bloomigan and the side of Diabolus here. And that is, we expected it going in, but I didn't expect it so early on. Well, I think it makes sense because you've seen Rift have a massive amount of prevalence on this pick. And then on top of that, one of the issues I thought for Diabolus is that Bolulu is a defensive player. You would normally play Akali in the mid lane, but now they're being forced to ban it on both sides. I expect we'll see this Akali banned away from Enclave throughout the series. First pick of Varus here. What do you make of that? I think it does two things, in my opinion, quite well. It denies it from Bendy, who's had some of the best performances of the split on his Varus, as well as obviously on that Lucian. And MTest is a pretty solid Varus player, and Varus fits into a lot of good compositions. Yeah, and I think it means when you hit that level 6 point, you can aim to punish the enemy bot lane. Hado has responded with the Brahms or something quite safe in response. But it does beg the question, when are you going to take the AD carry for the side of Enclave? Because you've left it to this third pick. Do you want to prioritize something else here? But they have actually picked up this Ryze already. So they've talked about how they want... well, we talked about how they have confidence in their mid and top laner. They've already picked up a Ryze for Eren, and I think it makes sense because it's a pick that can punish the enemy mid laner, but also scales effectively, because you saw the Galio ban come out. They expect Bolulu to play fairly defensively. So it's going to be Trundle locked in here very early on. And I think what Trundle does a couple of things well. It synergizes nicely with Varus, but also kind of counters the majority of what we see Monkeys like to pick up. Although the Sejuani is banned here, Monkeys does like to default to more tanky style junglers. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Trundle offers a decent amount of early pressure. We are actually just had an issue in Champ Select, so we'll just have... we'll get a remake. Should not be too long. I believe it'll... I believe it will be the same picks and bans from what we know. I will just double check with the production exactly what happened. But if anything changes, we will let you know. We're going to jump straight back into picks and bans as soon as we physically can. I think there might have been a mistake in a lock-in or something. No, I think we just heard there were some issues with side selection. So, we might have had the sides right on production, and they actually had the sides wrong. But we should sort that out. Oh, if it's side selection, then we're going to have a whole reset of the draft, I guess. So. Yeah, which... I mean, it's a difficult one because it shows some of your strategies going in. Question is, are they going to change anything? Because if the size changes, obviously that's a massive factor. But I think banning away stuff like the Akali you would do regardless. Yes. The question is,
would you still want to ban away the Darius? Because yes, Rift is prevalent on it, but he no longer has the counter pick that is guaranteed from red side.
I just wrote all this down.
Oh.
I had a nice little table written out for my picks and bans, and now, luckily, I have a wonderful tablet with an associated pen that I can.
Oh, so you can just rub it out.
I can just rub it out, mate.
You know, there's actually an invention where you could do that
Really?
before tablets. Yeah, it's called a pencil.
Oh, what's the invention called that you can get rid of things?
The rubber on the end of the pencil. So you could have written with a pencil and rubbed it out. Don't actually need a tablet for that.
I can't believe it. It's the first time I've ever heard of that.
Amazing. This is what I'm here for. I bring in the knowledge.
I've gone my entire life without knowing what a rubber is. Right, so we're going to be going into picks and bans as soon as we physically can. And I can see my co-caster Jake laughing off to the side for no apparent reason, by the way.
Hopefully they're just switching sides in game and they don't have to like switch sides or walk to the other side of the stage, because that would take a fair bit longer. But I think it's just the in-game one. Shouldn't be too much of an issue.
So, I mean, if they do switch over, I think Enclave are favoured on red side in the most cases because it gives Rifty that ability to counterpick in the top lane.
I think both teams are favoured on red side.
Okay. And do you think Flaxis and Rifty are both such important parts?
Yeah, well, I mean, Rift is going to be able to pick so freely if he's on the blue side because he knows that Flaxis might counterpick.
I think red side's just favoured in general, right? So
yeah, I think particularly with how these teams match up, the thing is, I'd say there's more power in Diabolus' bot lane, there's more power in Enclave's mid lane. So they're going to be sort of equal in power, whereas the top lane is going to go back and forth. That could be the deciding lane for this match, and I think red side is going to guarantee that counter pick. And yeah, I think that's why it's going to be an advantage. So if it is a side switch, then I think that does favour Diabolus to a degree.
All right, so I think we are having a complete reset as far as I'm aware. We're going to have 2 minutes until we get back into picks and bans, so you'll have to listen to us talk a little bit more about various stationary and nothing else, obviously. You can still see my co-caster lining up to the side. Okay, if we look at this from the perspective that we have side switches over, do you think that we see a red side Darius ban if it is going to be Diabolus on red side this time round?
I'm not sure about the Darius, because I don't think you do, actually, because I think Darius can be countered. I think the issue comes is if Flax just goes, I want to pick something safe-ish, and then you get the Darius picked into it. I think you can give it up.
Yeah.
And if he does blind the Darius, you're in a good position to counter.
We've seen this before, though. We've seen blue side Darius pick for a Rifty, and he dunks.
We have, but I think the difference is the caliber of players. This is Flaxish, you know, he's played in the LCS. If you give him counter pick, he will push the advantage. I think the difference that's going to be, I don't know, the thing that's going to be consistent is the Akali ban, because Bolulu doesn't like to play these aggressive champions. We know Eren does. I think that that's going to be banned away from Diabolus. Regardless of side throughout the series, the one thing that's beneficial is most teams would ban Akali on the red side. You're kind of throwing away a ban if you ban it on the blue side. So in a normal instance, if both teams played Akali, red side would always ban it to stop it from getting first picked. So when you're on blue side as Diabolus, not only do you lose that ban yourself, but you've given Enclave an extra ban they wouldn't normally have against another team. It does put you on the back foot slightly. But I guess Bloomberg does know that's the champion pool limit of his players, and he's not going to put himself in an unfavorable matchup against a champion that's frankly broken.
Well, we saw Galio ban from Enclave. I imagine that's going to remain similar because, again, Bolulu is a more defensive mid laner and likely just going to play those kind of wave cleary, support the team style mid laners that we expect. I want to get your opinion as we go through this pick and ban phase again. Diabolus are now on the same sides, but just the graphics have switched over.
So it was us who was in the wrong.
It was us. We delayed champion select, guys. What's going on?
Looks like they're going to start off and go with the same ban, so I think it's just a reset to the point we have. So should see the Galio come in here, and then it will be the first pick Varus, and over on this side Ryze and Braum, and I think that is where we left off.
Yes, I think you could be right. So everything has remained fairly similar across the board.
The Trundle, yeah, that's the one that they had the Trundle lock-in, which we did talk about. The question is, what do you want to take as a tier pick? Because they have actually changed that, so that
was maybe the problem. Yeah.
So Orianna coming in.
That is a very early defensive mid laner choice. I mean, they picked the Trundle anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
I think it makes sense because there are a few picks we've seen Bolulu play. He's played the Galio, he's played the Lulu. One of those was already off the table. If you left it till the second rotation of bans, there is definitely potential for you to get punished in terms of a small champion pool. Quickly, we talked about how Monkeys likes to play more tanky champions. He's gone with his Nocturne.
I mean, let's not talk about Nocturne. It could be Vedius's patented Nocturne mid that Eren has decided to pick up. But no, I imagine this is going to be Monkeys taking Nocturne to the jungle. Talk to me about this particular matchup now, with Monkeys now playing on something more aggressive, matching up into that Trundle.
Well, I think into the Trundle, you can't really duel him in the early levels unless you find him and manage to get your fear off early on. I think the main thing for the Nocturne is you want to farm till level 6. Once you have that ultimate, you try and make the impact. If you look at the carries on the side of Diabolus, the Varus and the Orianna, very vulnerable to something like a Nocturne. The thing is, traditionally, Monkeys have struggled to keep up in farm. This could show that Enclave have developed a different style, and they're willing to play a more farm-oriented jungler for Monkeys. So I'd be impressed if he pulls this off, because it's different from what I would expect from him.
So the Nara and the Ali ban comes through. It looks like Blummigan is trying to limit the bendy AD carry pool here with the Ash ban. And the Camille comes through, which is obviously something targeted towards Rifty, you would assume. Rifty will blind pick Camille sometimes, but they are red side, so you don't imagine that's going to be the case.
Yes, they do just pick up the Ezreal, a very safe AD carry, and that's the thing. He can also follow up pretty effectively. If you look at the side of Enclave, once Nocturne goes in, Ezreal's an AD carry he can fire his ult across. He has the ability to try follow up. And smart moves from DIABOLUS. They've picked up the Tom Kench, and I think you need that when you know a Nocturne's coming in.
Yeah.
You know that threat's there. You want something safe. The question is what you'll take top. And it looks like Flax is going towards a tank. He wants to play something safe top lane. Sion is something we've seen rise up in prevalence recently. The changes to his W passive means he gets a lot more HP stacked up on that. And in the late game, it's going to be a solid tank. And if you look at the side of DIABOLUS eSports, they have a really good front line. They have these hyper carries in the back line.
But no one's going to blow up the Sion, right? No one can get through that Sion.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle, and makes sense. Enclave are going to go towards a split push style. They have a fair amount of dive in their team. The thing is, in a 5v5 team fight, they're going to struggle against DIABOLUS even before that Fiora pick. So they go, right, we have counter pick. We're going to invest in Rift. He's been such a carry for us so far. He has the Fiora pick, and it's a great matchup into Sion because you can riposte that easily telegraphed, decimate and smash. Very easy to line up the stun.
I agree. I think I completely agree with your analysis here. You looked at that Ezreal rise and you were like, they are never, ever going to win team fights versus Avaris Oriana. And so they went for something that beats Flaxus in the side lane, again puts that priority onto Rifty, allowing him to split push. That is obviously now giving them a very clear-cut win condition.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, is that what Enclave has to do is cement a lead using the power of the Nocturne ult and the Rise ult, the sort of macro abilities from that, the fact that you can move around the map very quickly. Get that lead and transition it into a lead for Rift where he can just split push late in the game.
Very quickly before I hand over to our wonderful commentators, win conditions we know for Enclave, what are the win conditions for DIABOLUS?
I think DIABOLUS is just mitigate that. Don't get punished in the early levels, and when champions like Ezreal hit their power spike and when Nocturne is still a threat, wait until a bit later on, maybe that 30-minute point, and then just win 5v5 team fights.
Right, we have two wonderful commentators to take you through this first semi-final.
Really,
it
where
is
are
going
they?
to be Hip. Oh, they are over at another desk, believe it or not. It is Hiprain and Celtic Tiger.
I can't hear myself. Hey, here we are. Hello, and welcome to the Fortune Champions Grand Finals. Obviously, we are working our way towards that as DIABOLUS and Enclave are playing for a spot tomorrow at the Grand Finals versus either Misfits or XL, depending on the game after this. This is obviously a best of three. My name is Jake Hiprain Matthews, and I am joined by Celtic Tiger Brennan. Now, we had a little talk before the game about top lane. Rift and Flaxish was our lane to watch, so I'm going to continue to talk about that. Now we've got the Sion and the Fiora, and Rift, who's been one of the top carries for the Forge Champions. Now he's on a carry. Now he's on a split push threat with that counter pick versus Flaxish. How's Flaxish going to deal here?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the big thing. I think Flaxish will struggle into this matchup, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of the way Flaxish wants to play around this matchup is wave clear and start getting the roams off. You saw what they were talking about on the desk. It was you need to keep it away from that split push win condition. You need to get these team fights that your team excels in. And a lot of that as well is going to have to be mitigated from the early game. So while we talk a lot about the top lane matchup, I'm now looking towards the jungle because it's Monkeys from Enclave that can really dictate that. You have this aggressive pick with the Nocturne, something that can duel extremely well early on. I can get into the lanes very effectively. I really want to see that coming out from these guys early.
Well, we're loading through onto the Summoner's Rift for the first game of the finals rundowns. Playoffs are here. It's all to play for. As both of these teams do not want to be giving up in a best of three, and already off the bat, Blackfish just takes a pretty unfavorable trade, some might say.
Some might say. Some would be correct in this case, because that was rough. That's, you know, a forced TP back. Rift, again, we were talking about how DIABOLUS want to stave off what could be a bit of a negative early game. Forcing TP at level 1 is something you really want to avoid as Flaxish.
He comes back, and Rift just dives in and hits a Vital straight away.
Yep. Interestingly, a lot of the time you'll see people play up into Fiora, and they'll actually wait to get this kind of Vital, the ones that are on the back, to avoid obviously what will be heavily negative trades when Fiora just walks up
And
and
does
gets the
that.
Vital and Grasp proc. It's an insane amount of damage, and you can actually just walk out of Fiora's range and reset it too, which can be very useful. But I guess in this early laning phase, trying to push for that level 2, Flaxish wants to just maintain that.
Got himself that CS lead. He does need to be a little bit careful though, because NG is coming in for the gank from the top bot side, looking to put some damage
Forced
on.
flash.
Rift is forced to flash away, and that has alleviated some of this pressure in the top side.
Yes, I mean, you're forced to TP, you want to be able to stay up in the lane, and taking away some of that dueling potential that Fiora could have had is very important here for Flaxis as she goes forward.
Heyman gets clipped by the decimating smash, but Rift's quite content, still got that CS lead, still got that pressure in the lane, but NG, once he's done the scuttle, could always just come back once again, gets a refill on the mana, could always look for the plays.
Oh.
A good riposte into the stun comes down though. Flaxish taking a pretty unfavorable trade, but actually maybe he's turning it around, goes forward one more time with the
NG's
Q,
here,
the shield's on, but NG is starting to come through. Monkers is nowhere near, and NG will be looking for first blood.
I think that was a big mistake from Monkas because they knew NG was in the area. Monkas was doing his Krugs in the meantime. Could absolutely have been in that play, and the 2v2 could definitely have gone Enclave's way.
Hello, just blocking up. We've talked a lot about this top lane. Let's have a little look at the mid lane. Now, Balulu, a player who likes to play these more supportive champions, likes the Orianna, likes the Galio, likes the Lulu. Got a comfort pick for him in this first game. He's going to be versus Eren, and you were talking to me about how Eren needs to punish the mid game. He has to win this mid game.
Yes, and that's something, you know, we've seen when Balulu picks all these supportive laners. He's just very rarely punished. He's allowed just scale up and allow his team to team fight incredibly well, and even individually has great performances. So kind of plays into Diabolus' hands here, picking something like the Rise that, yes, can push him in, but I guess the idea from Enclave is they can scale alongside that and still provide their own pressure.
Well, he's got a CS lead. He's going to be able to TP back into lane, continue the pressure, but NG is coming in, has been spotted on a ward, but a lot of damage has picked him out, and Monkers is now turning around, flashes forward with that lethal tempo on, and Balulu starting to take a lot of damage out, but Eren blocked out by the minion.
That was actually a slight misplay from Monkas again. It was the flash was too late because the knockup had hit him. If he'd gone with the fear and the flash, you would have gotten the fear onto the Trundle. Trundle had no flash, would have been NG going down.
Unfortunately for him, not going to be able to make that happen, but Eren's still pretty content. Equal trade there in health. Is running a little bit low on mana, and he has already TP'd back into lane, but looking for just one more trade into Balulu.
Interestingly, you have seen some people start to go for Electrocute on Rise for more lane pressure. You can see that Eren isn't looking for that. He's just looking to scale up, and I think the big thing when you take something like Nocturne and Rise together is you're looking for side lane pressure post level 6, but it is NG who's had this very impressive early game that he's looking to continue.
Now, Tyg, you've talked before the game started about jungle impact. That was one of the things you wanted to be watching. You know, Monk is one of these players who's famous for stealing away these big objectives like the Baron Nash and making those hero plays, but NG has just been everywhere on the map, always hanging around, always in the wings.
Yeah, and he's actually using that to just maintain vision control over towards the top side, knowing that they can't try snowball Rift to the top lane, but maybe Rift just wants to snowball himself. But you see, he wants to go for those aggressive trades. NG's denying him that in the early game, and this is what was talked about on the desk, and what we've continued to talk about. Denial in the early game. Diabolus are delivering.
Well, Monk is maybe looking to deliver onto Balulu. Doesn't have the ultimate yet, but he does get the Q down, and Balulu just forced to run away. Looking to shove one more lane in favor of Eren so he can get that base off and recuperate some of the mana.
Something of a zoning gank there because, as you were saying, Eren running very low on mana is just going to get pushed in here, forced to farm under tower. Plays right into Balulu, who's able to farm with the autos as well, and will get the push in here, and effectively a free back off.
Going to be pretty content with that, as Balulu actually hasn't used his base yet as well. So it's going to finally go back. Start with that corrupting potion. It's been one of those things we've seen more and more for mid laners. They're starting to take the Time Warp Tonic and then starting with a corrupting potion, especially on the Orianna, who had that reduction to her magic resistance in the early game.
Yeah, I mean, it's so annoying to deal with. I mean, I think the most annoying combo I've seen is if you take it on Jax with Conqueror, and you get the true damage burn with the Time Warp Tonic, with the Corrupting Potion. It is just awful to have to deal with. Still not that fun from the mid lane either, apparently, as Balulu's having a very good time with it.
Yeah, he's quite content. He's down in CS, though, to Eren. That's going to be one of the big things. Eren's got that 10 CS lead up, was pushed in, was able to get a base off and buy those Boots of Lucidity, so got a little bit more cooldown reduction in the bag.
Interestingly, when we talk about farm deficits, we often look towards Monkas in the jungle, who generally focus on the lanes, sacrificing some of his farm. Monkas has pretty much had the opposite effect this game. He's tried to get into lanes, been shut down, and as a result is keeping up in farm, but has had less impact. Post level 6, though, is where we really want to see a Nocturne start finding those picks. So Monk is still with avenues into this game, still with the potential to pick people off, as Nocturne, of course, well known for paranoia.
But where does he go? Because you can't go bot lane. There's a Tahm Kench to gobble him up. Do you go deal with the tanky Sion and unlock Rift in the split push, or do you go mid lane and alleviate some of the pressure for Eren? So where are we expecting to see this pressure come out?
I think the best place is for the top lane, with the current state of the waves as well. As you said, the Tahm Kench can't deny a lot of that bot lane, but it is how you play as well around that Devour, because with the exceptionally long cooldown nerf that it got in the early game when eating an ally, you can absolutely play around that with Nocturne.
See whether or not the punish is there. It's quite hard to punish and force the Devour out on the Ezreal Braum lane, purely off the fact that you're not really got that all-in power, and we are actually seeing MTES build towards that lethality Varus, so it's not really the team fight focus, it's more for the kind of lane pressure. I'm
not sure I'd agree. I think, yes, while he mightn't pump out as much consistent damage in team fights, he's not really dealing with many tanks. Like, while attack speed Varus might be helpful against the Braum, literally every other member struggles versus lethality. So I actually do like it here and think it will still work in team fights when they get that far ahead for Diabolus. Again, we talked about how their comp does exceptionally well in team fights, and that still holds up.
We're seeing Eren actually versus Balulu. Lots of damage actually going down onto Eren as he is attacking in the minions. Balulu flashes forward, finds the kill with a paranoia by Monkiz going down. A great pillar will interrupt for a little bit, but Monkiz can't interrupt for long. And now NG maybe just looking to go for the tower dive. 2 kills over to the side of Diabolus in the mid lane.
And it's actually now
Enclave is running low. True shot barrage. Dodged out the fancy dancing by MTES, and he will be A-OK in that bot lane.
Technically could have aimed it closer to the tower, but anyway, we'll look back towards that. I think the mid lane fight, so impressive from Balulu. We were talking about he plays these control mages, and I was talking about, yes, he's had good individual performances too. This is what we're seeing. It's, yes, he's playing a supportive style, but he can still find solo play.
I mean, Eren just took so much damage from the minions in that. He was just fighting non-stop. Monkiz, good answer with the paranoia, but forced to use the fear to get that last little bit of damage down, and then he had nothing to disengage from NG. You can just take him under tower.
Yeah, it was a bit of a late use of the spell shield as well from Monkiz, and I think this does come back. I've called out Monkiz a lot, but I do want to say this is a champion he's probably less comfortable on. He is a tank-favored player, and potentially the Nocturne is something they've practiced somewhat, as you know, he's trying to make the right plays, but certainly that micro just doesn't seem to be working out for him.
I love how I was like, there's no all-in bot lane, and then they all-in bot lane and almost get a kill, just proving me wrong. Eren's forced to use the Realm Warp just to escape from Amphorax and NG.
Probably the right call, just in case NG pillared him in there as they went forward.
I mean, it's only a level 1 ulti, so the range isn't that long, so it's not like he's going to use it to like roam into side lanes for the moment. So
still technically could, but yes, I agree that you're better off just waiting for Nocturne ult regardless. And now it is again Diabolus who have control over the game. Through their mid and jungle, those are the two you want ahead in the early game. They get to control the map, they get to dictate vision. So what I'd like to see from Diabolus, something that we failed to see from them in previous Forge of Champions, one of their big failings was when they got early leads, they didn't establish vision control. I've been talking to their coach, Bloomigan, who's really focused on giving them new strategies to play around, but actually I'm not going to be given that chance. It looks like they're just going for kills.
That's going to be the cleanse out from Balulu, and Eren's running away. A flash pillar by NG will secure him yet another kill, and now Balulu going to get feared up by Monkiz, and Monkiz finds the kill, but NG is a beast! A double kill!
Are you kidding me? It's the exact same play, and it's still going to be Diabolus coming out on top. Oh dear. NG just knows where to be, and this is what I was talking about. Previously, it was just always punish the side waves. This time, it's Balulu making solo plays. NG's always nearby when those plays come through. The communication from this team has so vastly improved from what we've seen before playoffs.
And you were saying mid-game's where the punish needs to come through for Eren, but Balulu's
he's not going to get there.
He's sitting on his mana items at the moment. He hasn't actually got a single thing finished, and he's going to struggle to hit that power spike.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Diabolus. They're consistently punishing where they can. Enclave still have that split push win condition, and they still have the potential to pick people off.
And they're not finding gold.
Certainly Diabolus, yes, but certainly Diabolus are the ones who are playing to their win conditions much better early on.
Well, it's only, what, a 400 gold lead? Sorry, my maths are off right now. It's not even 400, it's 300. It's been a long day.
Hard. Numbers are hard, dude. Don't worry about it. This is really interesting. A Tiamat from Sion. That is full. I just want to wave clear. I want to keep people away from my tower. And maybe just trying to abuse the fact that, you know, you have that massive health scaling buff to Sion, just trying to get that Titanic Hydra to really chunk people out.
Well, I mean, you call it I just want to push. I call it the solo queue build, but we have differences in opinions that way.
Funnily enough, separate people have separate opinions.
But I'm amazed he's not gone for the Bramble Vest earlier, just to kind of hard counter the sustain that Rift's going to be able to get. As Rift's sitting on the Vampiric Scepter, quite content as we are once again seeing NG hanging in the jungle from Monkeys, stealing away those Raptors, always hanging over the wall, and maybe it looks like a roam might happen towards topside and towards Rift.
Maybe it's just going to be Sion completely matching the build. No, he does go for the Bramble Vest, as you said. I would love that. Just, you know, it's actually Ravenous Hydra Sion. It's just completely matching the Fiora item for item. But
yes,
no, we're seeing much more standard.
Lethality Sion you get. All about what you do after you're dead.
Oh, if Abstract steals this, that would have been so good. No, it is Enclave with the correct movement there. They get control over the Baron, or they get control over the Dragon, sorry. They get vision around there, and they secure that for themselves. Diabolus with the generally well-considered cross-map play to go for Herald here. No one from Enclave in a position to stop them yet, but they don't have the vision established.
That was the problem. They were spotted on that control ward, and now Aaron's stepping forward, does put down a control ward of himself as Monkeys is getting thrown onto. In comes the Page Raid! Flaxis manages to get the knock up onto just Hado, and there's an Abyssal Voyage as Monkeys dives onto the backline, but a two-man Shockwave is going down. You're going to fear for your life as Rift finds a kill, and now Aaron may be chasing for more. Not going to do so, and Enclave find one.
And that was a very split fight. Exactly what Enclave want. We're talking about how pick-focused they are. As soon as you find Balulu split off from the rest of the team, that's going to be the Orianna taken out, and that's going to be Enclave finding themselves more again. And after they took the Dragon, there's no cross-map play available to Diabolus.
This is such a good net game for Enclave for the moment. They've got themselves the gold league coming back in their favor, only 100 gold behind. 200 gold now as the
100 again.
Numbers go up.
Oh.
Oh, there we go. Now, where are they going to use this? Are they going to use it in the mid lane, unlock Eren, let him rotate around? They're going to give it over to Rift and give him the extended lane versus Flaxish? Or are they just going to go towards the bot lane, knowing that Ezreal not going to have the strongest wave clear versus this lethality Varus, who's got that Ghost Blade?
Well, all of those are good options, to be honest, because if you look at the top lane, you can go, as you said, the extended lane allows for the Fiora to continue the 1v1. If you go to the mid lane, that's consistently the hardest outer tower to crack and allows you more jungle pressure. Given the matchups, though, you're struggling to find that jungle pressure. Potentially now with those solo kills, knowing they can pick people off, they'll be a little more comfortable doing so. And those are the two that I'd be looking at. I feel like bot lane is unnecessary. It's just poke back and forth right now. However, I think really it will be decided by where Monkeys can make a play first, because they'll want to put it down straight after they make a pick.
Monkeys hasn't quite decided what lane he's going to, as he's walking towards the mid at the moment, and Rift just dueling versus Flaxish. Now this Bramble Vest has been picked up. It's getting significantly harder for Rift to deal with Flaxish, and with that Tiamat build, he's actually struggling to shove. Now we've got a teleport coming through. It looks like a 2v2 is going to be starting up. NG with the pillar is going to go down, but the teleport's been interrupted. Eren's not coming in, and Rift is trying to find a kill. Can't do so. That's 5-0 on the Trundle. Meanwhile, the Rift Herald has been summoned in this mid lane, and First Turret Blood should go over to Enclave, but it's not even going to happen as Monkeys is getting delivered onto the Abyssal Voyage. Amphorax gets Emtist into the fight. Turret's not going to go down. Rift Herald will fall, and Enclave are thwarted in both top and mid.
And again, it's just a small misplay from Enclave that costs them there. It's Rift jumps forward as the Fiora, as the TP is cancelled. Failure in communication there, I feel, as the TP was either cancelled too early, or simply Rift didn't know that the TP was being cancelled in the first place, and he ends up left too far forward and picked off.
Well, Balulu quite content with his tower being up still, and with the fact that he does have himself an advantage over Iron, who has now got that lost chapter at least, but still a ways off actually really hitting that power spike. Is it the Rod of Ages, or are we just expecting the Abyssal Mask here?
You could go for either, but I feel like considering that he's being picked off so often, potentially leaning towards the Abyssal Mask. I think I personally prefer going for the, going for the Abyssal Mask because he has that Null Magic Mantle. I was considering potentially the Merc Treads, but he decided to go for the CDR boots. So I do believe it's going to be the Abyssal Mask here. It's fine. I think they would have been done well with the extra little bit of damage later on, but certainly Abyssal Mask, that bit more safety for Eren from some of the damage coming out here.
The Monk is getting himself as much vision control on the top side of the river as he can, as in comes the ulti. Didn't realize NG was there. Realm Walk's going out, and Eren will go into the pick. The shockwave is flashed away. Monkeys is still alive as he's forced out. A two-man Glacial Fissure by Hado has been thrown down, followed up by the pillar, and in comes the chase. In comes everyone. Diabolus will be able to disengage Enclave from the play mid.
I mean, yes, but that was a play that Diabolus were ready to counter. So I actually think that was a net gain for Enclave, because the TP came through, Diabolus were looking for this full counter play, tried to use that to take the mid tower, and they didn't get it. So I think Enclave, while the play they were looking for didn't work out, they actually end up with surprisingly gaining.
And I mean, Monkey's ultimate's not on like a particularly short cooldown either. Sorry, it is on a particularly short cooldown. It's already almost half off.
Yeah.
So he can make that play happen again, and this time no teleports to counter, does need to be careful. So we are seeing Rift and Flaxish dueling it out here in the top side, but now with the shield coming out, now with the Tiamat, it's actually getting very hard for Rift to deal. 1v1.
I actually disagree. Yes, while he's not going to go down anytime soon, it is the fact is Rift doesn't have to heal off of Flaxish. He could just turn to the wave and back to full health Fiora goes.
Yeah, he literally made me eat my words there. You're like, you're wrong. And Rift went, I'll show you why you're wrong. And wins a trade and then just heals off the minions. So quite content, even though he's got that 1-2 scoreline, has a slight CS lead, has the shove pressure.
And this is actually basically the storyline of Enclave, pretty much this whole Forge of Champions split. It's been, you know, we are being underrated, we want to show you why you're wrong, and they've done so far. Now continuing to do so as they came in as looking like Diabolus were back and for potentially underdogs from Enclave here, and they're showing why they should still be definitely considered a massive threat.
I mean, we even see Rift has got that demolished, so he is fully invested in taking down these turrets. I mean, he is in the resolve tree with the fact that he's running the Grasp of the Undying, but this could actually be first turret blood going over to him. There is a siege happening in the mid lane as Rift gets first turret blood, and Eren is there to defend. NG and five members
mid.
Strong. Diabolus need to be very careful. Towers going down. We're even seeing the teleport come through as Bendy is going to join the rest of Enclave. A trade for turrets on the map, but look at Rift, he's still pushing in that top side.
But the bigger issue now is Infernal Drake just spawned, so Diabolus can get a net gain by taking this as well. It's whether Enclave can try counter by either pushing up the mid wave, or as you said, towards that top side where Monk is, and you have Rift there as well. Getting themselves an inner tower could be worth losing this Infernal.
Well, they've lost that Infernal no matter what, and that Demolish proc will be enough to take down the turret. 2 turrets to 1 in favor of Enclave for the moment, as Flaxish will be able to catch that wave. He's finished up his Thorn Mail into the Ravenous Hydra that Rift is sitting on. If we do look at Ezreal as well, this is that mid game you were talking about. This is the time when Enclave need to find that punish. You're on the fully stat Manamune, has that Triforce as well, and Eren with the Abyssal Mask is pretty tanky now.
Yeah, now Diabolus have to find a way to slow down Enclave, and they're doing so quite well. They're grouping up as this big death ball, knowing that their strength is in team fighting. They're trying to find picks based on that, but it's Enclave who are able to, you know, split them up across the map with the likes of Nocturne, the likes of Ryze. And so far it's Enclave who are now, even though you would have considered potentially needing a little bit more time to find picks, and especially given that early game, Enclave with control over the map.
The Enclave sitting quite content for the moment, but gold is still very, very close. That's going to be one of the key things to track. 1 Drake apiece, but Enclave have arguably the weaker Drake, I'd say.
The issue, though, is that a lot of the gold that's evening this out is shoved onto your Trundle.
Yeah.
NG on Trundle has had a great early game, but he's already starting to fall off. He doesn't do as much. He provides, you know, a great way to shut down people, and he is this annoying tank to have to deal with, but annoying is about all he is, whereas if you had that lead on something like the Orianna or the Varus, you'd suddenly see people chunked out of fights before they could make them work.
I'm also really liking the adaptation of he's not gone for the Zeke's item because of the fact that it's a lethality Varus. There's not going to be a lot of auto-attacking going down, so he's actually gone into the Gargoyle Stoneplate, so he has extra tankiness in these big team fights, but Enclave at the moment don't want a team fight. They're just avoiding every time a team fight starts up. They just peel back. They have so much disengage with the Braum and the Ezreal. But they just play safe and continue to siege and apply pressure to Enclave.
Yeah, and the long range of Ezreal is really helping them in that regard. And I was actually talking about how I was hoping Diabolus would establish deep vision. I was hoping they would push their advantage. They didn't, and now you're actually seeing it's Enclave who, once they get the advantage, are already moving into the topside jungle of Diabolus.
We do see Rift heading down to that bot lane with the 2 turrets down, continues to extend the gold lead and the tower advantage for Enclave. by pushing up this bot lane. That Demolish is helping him massively. He's also now got the Sheen and the Phage. Building towards... Oh, he's got the Stinger as well. He's actually pretty much almost out of Triforce. Rift just going to take a little Realm Warp away to safety from NG, and I actually don't think that Flaxish can contest this, as this turret is just going to get sieged up. But the tower's not going to go down. Rift, you need to be very, very careful. And Abyssal Voyage as well. Decimating Smash goes down a little bit wide, and now we do see Balulu hot on the heels of Rift, and Rift able to make his way out.
For Rift, he doesn't even necessarily have to back off.
That's going to be the paranoia. They're putting the damage down, and it looks like MTS is going to get picked off. Monkeys with a fantastic ultimate gets the kill, and the turret in the mid.
And MTest with the mistimed flash, but it's actually Diabolus fighting in the mid lane.
Oh, good Glacial Fissure to scare off the rest of Diabolus, and they need to be careful because they could get flanked on by the rest of Enclave. Not going to do so. Diabolus walk away with their tails between their legs as Rift takes yet another turret, and now the gold lead is extending 39k to 37.
Yeah, and you can now see how impressive map control is when you run a pick style comp like this, how important it is, because you suddenly have Monkas able to pick people off as soon as they're farming the side waves like that, and they're using the fact they got that inner tower in the top lane, they traded that for the dragon, and are using that to their advantage to control the top side of the map. And it's giving them picks like that and further control of this game. Really nicely played.
How do you feel the Tiamat Scion is working out?
Well, he's not able to wave clear well enough, because it is Rift just running around him, but I think without the Tiamat he might be struggling even further, so I can't necessarily fault Flaxish for that, and you are seeing that the trades are a little more even than you might have expected them against the Scion.
It's a very Flaxish thing as well, right?
Yeah, potentially.
Experimental. Let's have a little look at this play again.
But look at the mistime flash. Look at the mistime flash. He flashes, and you just turn it 90 degrees right onto him. And that is the free kill, effectively, for Monkeys, on top of the free summoner. And now, here's the attempted fight. They actually commit very heavily for the tower, but you manage to get Ezreal and Braum to the other side of the pillar, and then you get the ult off.
The Fissure was so key as well. It slowed down Balulu, so he couldn't get in range to Shockwave. Speaking of which, he misses one onto Hado, and Hado has a little bit of fun with him there.
You know, we've seen some good shockwaves this tournament. We've seen some bad shockwaves. I'm going to call that one, you know, on the worst end of them. But
the unfortunate shockwaves, as I like to call them.
It's a low cooldown. Just testing his limits.
Yeah, you know.
All good.
He's quite content.
We are seeing Rift continuing the split push.
I mean, this is why he was one of the players we highlighted coming into this matchup. This is why he's been one of the top laners in this tournament. Just giving Flaxish such a hard time, and the fact he's got the Ocean Drake as well as the Ravis Hydra, means he has so much sustain in this lane.
Yeah, now it's Enclave who are maintaining vision control once more, and you see Diabolus are so scared to walk up to them now, knowing that you have this really pick-heavy comp coming out from Enclave. They don't want to suddenly get picked off like Nocturne, because they already have multiple times.
Hasn't been able to actually put too much turret down, so this Tiamat is starting to work out. Flaxish working towards that Titanic Hydra second. So, not just sitting on the core Tiamat and then continuing a tanky build, does want to actually...
I mean, at a certain point, you do have to try match the Fiora's damage, I guess, because you're not going to be able to out-tank her because of the Vitals doing so much true damage to you, as well as the fact she's just going to sustain off you.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's the reasoning here. Whether it'll work out, I'm skeptical. But, you know, I appreciate that, as you said, it is something innovative, trying something different, knowing that the matchup is generally losing.
Erin's actually just pushing into this tier 3 here, while the rest of Enclave are hanging around that mid lane, maybe looking for the Infernal. Infernal does get traded up, but half the HP given up on that tier 2. Remember, those don't sustain all the way back up anymore, so that's just a net gain. Although they are now down 2 Infernal Drakes, so the damage scaling is there for Diabolus.
Part of this is... Oh, Rift gets it too! I want to say part of that is that you can see Diabolus are being forced to group in at least 3-man squads, and it's Enclave who are using that to their advantage. They're moving them around, they're making sure that they maintain this 1-3-1 with the Rise, and suddenly Diabolus are just not able to keep up with the tempo that Enclave are putting out.
Well, they are able to get themselves a little bit of Baron control. Didn't really have the control wards in the infantry, though, to get full control of the zone, and NG will get himself the crab, so that's something permanent for them on the map. And it looks like it's just kind of more of the same from Enclave. They're quite content just keeping Diabolus split and pulled apart. And this is why we're seeing Enclave. This is why they were the top scoring team. This is why they are the team that have only locked themselves a spot into European Masters out of all of the UK teams. They're doing good. They're recognizing when Diabolus are weak, and they're punishing them for it.
Yeah, and I think what I'm looking at now for Enclave is, can you maintain that 1-3-1? Will you start moving towards the Baron? Or, I mean, if you're going to allow Aaron to push in like that consistently, he'll be able to maintain that pressure and they won't need to go for Baron because they'll simply win off the split. So I'm interested in seeing where they go with this. I still think Rift is going to be this massive player that has to be dealt with, and it will only get worse as the game scales forward. From Diabolus' point of view, they're just looking to delay until they can find a big 5v5 team fight, maybe get a pick off themselves with the likes of Orianna Varus. You can see they're trying to kind of scope for them, but Enclave playing so far back when necessary.
And you've got this poke, this lethality Varus, but it's been underwhelming. There hasn't been too much poke because they're not able to get into those siege situations that makes this pokey Varus so strong. They're being sieged onto. And Enclave with the Ocean Drake do have that extra added little bit of sustain. Bendy's now got the Blade of the Ruined King, and now we're seeing a big engage coming down. That's actually going to be the poke Varus. Put the damage down onto Rift, and Entest finds himself a kill. Nice and easy.
And that was a good time to roam down. You could see Enclave were busy trying to clear vision from Diabolus. You knew they weren't going to be able to turn quickly onto something like the Baron. So, effectively getting a free pick off there. Well played by Diabolus.
Sterek starting to come through for Rift as well. Going towards his third item. Titanic Hydra on Flaxish has been finished up now though, but he is still quite far behind his lane opponent.
He's still not able to trade aggressively, but you can see that he's able to hold his own until someone can come help him out. The issue is, how many times are Diabolus going to be given free reign to send them over there? But one of the big things I want to highlight for Diabolus is the fact that they have managed to pick themselves up 2 Infernal Drakes. We were already talking about how their team fight scales so impressively. That'll only become more and more scary with those double Infernals buffing it.
We're 28 minutes on the clock, approaching that half-an-hour mark. And before we got into the game, Tig, you wrote on a piece of paper 30 and pointed at it. Do you want to explain to me and the guys at home what you were talking about when you pointed at the 30?
It was actually Ox who pointed at 30 as the point where you expect Diabolus to start taking control, but because Enclave still have run of the map, because Enclave still have really good vision control, I don't think that point has been hit yet. However, if team fights start occurring, and that's why you're seeing the big hesitance from Enclave to go for a Baron, it should be Diabolus who take the lead at this point in the game.
There's actually a really big engage happening in the top side. They used the Abyssal Void to send 4 members to try and kill Aaron, who just run wolves to safety. He's quite content, quite safe for the moment, and Monkez has spotted out quite a few of the Diabolus members on this ward, but he's standing on one himself. Does need to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, it is actually Diabolus with the relative control in the Baron area right now. Enclave need to spend some time clearing that out. And it's really a back and forth over the Baron area because Enclave aren't in a position where they want to commit to it. They know that they'd lose in a big grouped fight like that. They're just trying to stall for it long enough for their split pushes to really take effect.
If anyone at home, if you are an XL or a Misfits fan, you actually want Enclave to win this series because the winner of the next series is then guaranteed that spot at the European Masters. But if you're Diabolus, you need this win. You need to get to the finals. You need to win tomorrow if you want to go to the EU Masters. And Enclave already got that play-in spot secured. They're playing for group stages now. They're playing to be the #1 seed coming out of the UK.
Yeah, and I mean, right now they're definitely showing why they are the #1 seed. However, Diabolus, definitely a revitalized roster. We've seen them dismantled previously before playoffs. Now coming out looking much stronger. They still are able to make a 5v5 work right now, and it's them with Baron control. They could start forcing a play around this top side.
There's no vision by Enclave. True Shot Barrage comes down just to try and spot out if there's any shenanigans happening, and a couple of members have been spotted out on a ward, and Diabolus is going to be able to siege up onto this turret, take it down, nice and simple.
The big thing for me there as well is when you see that True Shot Barrage coming out for the Baron, you're effectively announcing that you have no vision in the area. Yeah. You do not know where they are because you're like, I don't know whether they're on Baron or not. We have to go check. That's all we can do. Diabolus continue to use that really good turnaround of vision control from them and using that to their advantage to get themselves a tower because they're still not out of this game. They still have that team fight win condition. We talked about 30 minutes. It is past that. Well, they can try and make it work.
Exactly, and we are starting to get to the point where the scaling is getting scary. Level 17 is starting to happen on quite a few members as Monkez does smite away the blue buff.
Smite steals. Getting his fingers ready.
He's warming up. He's warming up at the moment.
Preparing for them Baron steals, if necessary. I think Enclave right now need to start going for what is a risky play, but they need to get something like that Baron, because if this continues to stall out, it does become dangerous for them. They either need that or their Fiora to start solo killing Sion, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that quick enough. Potentially, though. I mean, that's the other option. I would rather see the riskier play. I'd rather see Enclave go on the proactive here, see if they can keep Diabolus away as well, find a pick around that vision.
And the current Drake alive is an Ocean Drake as well, so it's not even like one for Diabolus need to worry too much about contesting. They're quite content maybe losing that if it continues to hold pressure on the Baron pit. There is a lot of vision for the side of Enclave hanging around that area at the moment, but Enclave, they can't commit to it. They can't team fight, so they can't go for the Baron, and they just have to continue to play safe as Varus is starting to get more and more poke. Has got the... It has been such a long time since I've seen that item. What's it called?
Edge of Night?
Edge of Night. That's the chap. The one with the spell shield.
To avoid being picked off.
All lethality. Got your Ghost Blade, got your Dust Blade, Dual Blades. With the Edge of Night. And actually,
this is what I like.
Enclave sneaking away Baron Nashor. Monk is tanking it up, and Eren is there with him. No vision. There's no contest. And Baron's already at 2k HP. This could actually just be Enclave. Monkus needs to be so careful. He is the smiter. He is the secure. Yes. And Enclave able to steal away Baron Nashor and get out squat-free. Is Rift even going to be able to take himself an Ocean Drake here?
And that's the play I was talking about. They need to go for a more aggressive Baron. They do it by keeping their bot lane in the mid lane. It's Diabolus who assume that they're not going to go for the two-man Baron. They're wrong. Enclave now with the net victory. This makes their 1-3-1 so much scarier. However, they need to use this. This is their time. If they are forced to wait till next Baron, they're in much more trouble. They need to try pushing their advantage with this Baron. Realistically, potentially look to end with this Baron.
You have to be scared as well. There's a Death Cap, a fully stacked Seraph, and the Abyssal Mask on Eren. He's got 3 items. He's very tanky with that Abyssal Mask in the 1v1 versus Balulu. He also just does a buttload of damage at this point. The only nice way I can really put it, you got a GA finished up on Monkus, so he can dive in semi-consequence free, and now Diabolus may be looking to put a bit of pressure down as a shockwave does collapse onto Bendy. Bendy flashes away, NG with the pillar goes down, and Bendy's trying to make his way out. The chains of corruption have not connected. In comes the pain train, in comes Sion, and Bendy tries to arcane shift out, can't do so, and Diabolus find themselves one, and they're going to take the turret.
And they can keep pushing up with this. Yes, you have the Baron wave to stop them, but I was actually wondering whether they're going to go deal with the side waves now. They could potentially have tried to go for the inhib and back in time, but with the Baron waves, it is very dangerous to try leave that. Now it is NG who's left by himself.
He's going to go golden. The rest of the team actually maybe making a bit of a U-turn. Hado here with the Winter's Bite. Concussive blows are going to stack up. This is going to be so bad if you lose your jungler. Amphorax gobbles up NG to make sure he is nice and safe.
Rift is on the flank, though. They can
Rift
force
is
this.
teleporting. They're actually going for this turret here.
You have Rift still there. I was actually wondering if he was going to try force the fight. It's Eren who gets themselves the inhib tower, so their split push still pays off, but now he's in a bad spot.
Realm warping away. He's not going to make it out in time. The pillar interrupts him, and Eren will fall down as NG is dominating 6-0 on the Trundle.
I'm actually not sure if it was the pillar stopping him there. I think he just walked out of it right at the end, tried to time it perfectly on the edge of it. Didn't quite get that timing off, and now it's one more Baron down for Enclave. Diabolus with the strong aggressive plays. Uh-oh, here we go. There's the ult in.
Monkus puts down the spell shield, gets caught out by the shockwave. A piercing arrow is enough to pop that GA, and they're going to pump the damage down. Monkus.
That's GA from the Nocturne gone, along with his ultimate. That is a massive, massive loss for Enclave. They now have to reset even further. That's their Baron done.
I mean, Flax is just kind of... He wanted to be on TV. He's like, hey, Mum, I'm on TV. He just ran past the screen. Because we do still have Rift with the Baron buff, who's going to be one of the other major split push threats. Has been able to take himself one turret,
still
but
has held on to the Baron. That is the key thing. You still have a Fiora with Baron. You still have a very scary split pusher. However, you don't have a team to help him split.
No, the pressure that they can now assert is massively discounted by the fact that they've lost Baron on Bendy, they've lost it on Monkus and Eren. So only Hado's running around with it.
And even then, not for particularly long anyway, because they should be getting towards the end of it, and because they were forced to reset with Monkus' attempted pick, it's effectively wasted. Well, I say wasted. They did manage to get that inhib tower top. They can go back to the 1-3-1, but as I was saying, they realistically wanted to start pushing towards an ending scenario with that Baron, and they weren't able to do so.
And if you're Diabolus, you're very happy with this. It buys you time. You're starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. Do have to be careful of the fact that Rift is now really starting to scale up. Got that Triforce, got that Titanic Hydra, Sterix, and the QSS, the Mercurials, finished up for him. So he's also pretty content.
Yes, but when you're struggling to deal with the likes of you, first of all, you have to get through Scion, and that's ignoring the massive amount of damage you have seen Diabolus put out. They have that double Infernal helping them do so as well. It is very dangerous. Rift is kind of, again, as it has historically been for Enclave, the one who effectively has to carry against the other team.
He has Flame Horizon, Flaxish, cool little fact for you there, who's still very useful for his team. He is tanky. He's going to be able to frontline for his team with the ulti, be able to get onto multiple members, and he's going to be a problem for them.
Now here he is attempting to be a problem, but
yeah, well,
he is Diabolus to respond.
Through. 3 members strong, and Rift can't even win the 1-for-1. He's trying to put that damage down with the healing. He's not going to be able to stay alive for long, and Flaxis with the decimating smash squats him down. Is it squat? No, it's squash.
No, it is not.
That is my words. I'm still
Unless
recovering.
he's trying to do leg lifts with this lad, I think squatting him down is unlikely.
I'm still recovering from the I-63 land plague, so my brain is a little fried still at the moment. So I'm gonna use that as my.
I too could make excuses, but I think I think we'll look forward. And now it is Diabolus who've turned the game around. They've managed to stall out to the point we were talking about. It was post 30 minutes. It stints was Enclave who had control of the map. Diabolus turned that around as well. And now they're the ones who look like they have the commanding lead. They're able to shut down the split push quite effectively.
Oh, Paranoia.
And the pick attempt from Monk is here.
Once again, they're looking for the tank. Realm Warp by Eren. Not actually going to use it. Just delivers 1 minion in.
And now
He's
it's
scared,
forced.
but in comes the play. Haddo hops back to Bendy with the stand behind me.
And I want to commend Diabolus here because they're doing exactly what Enclave didn't. When you send people to go deal with your side laner, you should be trying to force an engage in the mid lane. So they did that in the bot wave. They said 3 people bot to go deal with Rift. And what you got from Enclave in the mid lane was they weren't able to see anyone. They weren't able to make an engage like that. They need to maintain that pressure to allow Rift to get his own pressure in the side wave. Because right now he's just not able to. Right now, every time he starts looking towards those inhib towers, it's Diabolus collapsing and Enclave unable to punish.
And look at that dragon timer. 10 seconds till the Elder Drake comes up. We do have the push coming through from Eren, who has got a fair amount of damage he can put down onto this inhibitor as he's not particularly getting the strongest trade versus
just out of the inhib. You can't actually do anything to him.
He's dodging out. Abyssal Voyage is coming through. Eren has to get this or he will just die. Trying to pump that damage down. Inhib and the Gobble comes down. Decimating smash and Flaxish finds his 3rd kill. Meanwhile, Enclave are punishing elsewhere, looking to try and get their hand onto this Elder Drake. It's on half HP in the moment, and NG is about. Can you outsmite the smite man? That is the question. NG instantly stunned up. 2k HP into a 3-man shockwave. Not going to be quite enough as the Drake does reset. NG running low. 1 kill already over. It's Flaxish finds it. The smite goes down. Rift is down, and Elder Drake will get picked up. Diabolus, I think they've done it. They've waited for their win condition. They've waited for their team fight, and they're going to turn towards the base.
That's Elder, that's Baron, and that's likely the game leaning towards Diabolus now very heavily because Enclave just messed up there. They waited so long in the Elder, they made that play so slow, they were trying to play it safe, and instead, all they did was make it less safe by allowing Diabolus to get there in time.
See if the defense by Enclave is going to be enough as Ampharak's actually just stepping forward. He's quite content tanking away. These turrets are melting to the side of Diabolus, and now Inhibitor next to go down.
They still have time to go towards that Baron as well before people respawn, before they're in a massive amount of danger, because they were winning the team fights before. Double Infernal and Elder Drake guarantees them those wins.
The worst thing is Monk's GA came up in the in his grey screen. Not going to go for this in this Baron quite yet, but they can go for that a little bit later. So we are going to have a look at this team fight once again.
So you see, they actually had slowed it down just before this, and now they actually try turn around, turn into the fight. They don't want to 50-50 smite. Choosing not to do so guarantees they lose, though, because they're not able to quickly burn people down like they were hoping, and instead you end up with Flaxit and M-Test just running through the rest of the team, and then Rift gets turned on and burst out.
I mean, yeah, there's not really much more to say about that. Just great turnaround by Diabolus, punishing their win condition. The shockwave could have been bigger, but it did what they needed it to do, and now we're seeing Enclave trying to defend versus this Baron Nashor, but they have no vision as Haddo is able to place a ward down, but there's
they know what's going on.
They know it's happening. It's at half HP, and they're just poking over the wall. Monkeys has the GA.
The steal.
Can he go for the steal? Does have that blast cone as well. He's going to go over the wall. Not going to happen in time, and now it's forced to flash out. Even Chains of Corruption have been thrown down, and Diabolus maybe looking for the chase. Bendy gets caught out by the shockwave, instantly taken down, and Diabolus find themselves a kill onto the AD. Meanwhile, Rift is just trying to take the base, but he can't do so. The rest of the team are going for a team fight. Monkeys is going to fall down. #GA popped, and now we see Rift continue to try and take the inhibitor, continue to try and take the base. There's a teleport. We've got a base race on our hands. The Baron Bath is going to have to come through, and Hado trying to stop them out left, right, and center, but only a couple members have come through. A massive piercing arrow into the shutdown onto Flaxish, who is gone alive, and Rift is trying to make his way out, but Aaron is the hero who sacrifices himself for Rift, and Rift with a blast trampolines up, but he's not going to be out. A piercing arrow almost there into the riposte. Rift trying to run away. One more blast code. You've got to get this one, man, otherwise you are dead. M-Test hot on the heels. In comes the arrow. Is it going to clip? No, it's not. Teleport out, and he will be okay, but NG says your base is not okay, and he is taking it down. I don't think they can defend, and Diabolus take game 1.
That failed blast code actually cost them there. They might have been able to get back there in time to stop it, but no, it is Diabolus who take it. We talked about their win conditions. They managed to deliver. They managed to stall it out. And then it was Enclave falling apart because Diabolus' team fight just so strong.
Waited out that win condition. It was delayed by a solid early game by Enclave. You said 30, 40 minutes was when they really started to come alive. But, I mean, they got to be so content.
That was close, though. They can't go away saying we played that perfectly, because you saw Enclave were able to punish in the mid game, and you had this really strong early game from Diabolus that they should have been able to snowball with. Instead, they ended up throwing that, gave Enclave the potential to win the game, especially with that Baron. Very good to re-punish them, but certainly it was. You were salvaging what you'd made of the game. There were mistakes, but Diabolus still looking like the strong team we expected coming into playoffs.
I mean, sorry, there definitely were mistakes. Looking towards game 2, I'm interested to see what the adaptation is, what the changes, because Enclave actually had a very good early and mid, especially their mid game, really played well. But late game, their team comp just kind of fell apart. They tried for the base race. It wasn't enough, unfortunately, for them, and they were punished.
That is to be expected when you're running something like the Nocturne, so you had to play more proactively. The Baron was great. You just needed to regroup and not get caught out. Reset up your 1-3-1. Instead, you end up pushing too far forward. You get punished for it. Your whole Baron gets wasted. Diabolus come online.
I mean, we've heard from you. Let's hear from the analyst desk. So, Scoundrel and Orcs, take it away. Tell us what you think about that game, because that was madness.
So, me and Orcs basically thought Enclave hard-inted that win condition. Okay, I want to break it down in a slightly nicer way, because that was just a bit of a joke. But we were talking about it through the game, and we were saying, you've got a 1-3-1 that Diabolus cannot deal with. You should be twisting that knife as much as physically possible, right?
I think you have to give credit to Diabolus because they used Tom Kent so effectively. Every time Rift tried to push up, suddenly Tom Kent is there, Varus is there, and they actually managed to punish him and shut him down. And that's why it felt like Enclave started to get a bit desperate, because they're like, right, our win conditions is 1-3-1, that's 1-3-1. So they 1-3-1.
Yeah.
It didn't work because of some smart plays from Diabolus, and that's where you sort of go, that's our one win condition, what do we do now?
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why it was so beneficial for Diabolus to move around the map like they did is that usually when you go to deal with a split pusher, the rest of your team can do something like group up and take an objective, do something on the other side of the map. You see pressure drawn away, you apply pressure on the area of the map where it's weak. With Enclave's composition, there was no team fight. There was no group up and do anything because they didn't really have a composition designed to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw that situation where they went for the Elder Dragon because they felt they had the numbers advantage. They still lost the fight out massively, and they just felt the team fight power wasn't there. I mean, Bendy even decided to not pick up that second tier, which is normally what people do to secure a late game on Ezreal. They really wanted to punish that mid game, and they just weren't able to push the lead despite getting the Baron, and despite the fact they lost this game with a gold lead. Like, they sort of had everything you would think they need, but they just didn't manage to execute that 1-3-1, and they kind of threw some advantages away.
I was joking about the Enclave hard-inting because, let's be fair, Diabolus played it incredibly well. I mean, the game map decisions that they made towards the later stages of the game, we came out of the draft thinking, we think Enclave have the edge in terms of draft. Yeah, okay, you need to be spiking early as Diabolus. You need to make use of that lethality Varus at 2 items. You should be looking to put pressure on in the mid game. That came and went, and they didn't have that sort of crucial lead, but it came to the late game, and the map decisions are what won it for Diabolus.
I mean, the thing that's really scary for me is the fact that we talked about how Diabolus like to play with a more supportive mid lane style. They like to put more pressure on the top and bot lane. They didn't. You know, Flax just played a tank. He had the lane counter going towards Rift, and Bolulu had to step up more in the mid lane Orianna role. And yes, there were some mistakes from him, but at the same time, he was a massive presence there, and it showed Diabolus aren't one-dimensional, and that was a big fear I had for them. I thought Diabolus in the quarterfinals showed that, yes, we can play supportive mid-style side lane pressure very easily, but I thought, is that all they're going to be able to do? In game 1 already, they've shown they can do a bit more than that, and now it's match point for Enclave. They have to win this next game and the following one if they want to stay in the tournament. And this is our #1 seeded team. Not a good position to be in.
You also have to remember that although Enclave already have a European Masters spot, if they do not win Forge of Champions, then they actually just go straight to the play-ins rather than going straight to group stages. So they have to work harder in the European Masters to actually get to the point at which the team that wins Forge of Champions will already be at.
Yeah, and there's going to be a range of teams in the play-ins. I mean, there's a second seed from the other big national leagues like Spain, like France, like Germany. It's not a situation where you can go, oh, it's fine, when play-ins will get through. You really are going to have to fight, and I think Enclave aren't going to want to get knocked out at this point and then think, right, now we have to fight in play-ins. They'll want to at least make this series a 2-1 if they do end up falling. The question is, what are they going to be able to do next?
Yeah, and I think we've got to go back to the drawing board here, because I think on paper we came out of that and said, right, well, this split push is great. That's a great late game win condition. You can 1-3-1 if you want to. I actually think a 1-4 would have worked out better for Enclave there. I didn't mind the 1-3-1, but I just think by having the rise with the unit in the 4 in the mid, you give less pressure for Diabolus to be able to exploit.
I think you're right, because I feel like the problem was whenever they punished Rift, you then had the rise and the rest of the team move together, and they're like, right, okay, now we're together, but they've already dealt with Rift. Yeah. And moved back. And the thing is, Eren never really got much from the top side split. He got 1 tower, but that was because Diabolus committed so hard on the other side of the map. I feel like if they'd gone for the 4-1 and just kept things as far away from Rift as they could, it would have gone better. And I think another issue is they gave up both those Infernal Dragons. I think the first one, fair enough in giving it up, but the second one they absolutely should have contested. But the big factor is, you know, Elder Dragon's going to be a massive issue, and you keep playing that 1-3-1. When it gets to that point, it's like the 1-3-1 no longer... Well, I mean, again, Rift is the main source of pressure on that Fiora. And when Elder Dragon came available, it means that if he does get punished by Diabolus, they can just instantly convert into the Elder.
Well, the problem was that they had Rift constantly splitting bot. I mean, switch him to top, and then it draws the pressure the furthest away from Elder Dragon. But they had their Rise that was in the top lane, and that was the guy that needed to be there to contest things like Elder Dragon, you know. And I think it was just some map play decision-making things that weren't quite sort of going through the Enclave that we usually know. And I think the 1-4 would have worked out better, because if Rise was there and there was a unit of 4 with Rift being the one split pushing the top lane inhibitor, suddenly you've got a Rise who's actually a pretty decent teamfight champion.
Yeah, and also got a lot of single target damage that you can use on a neutral objective like the Elder Dragon. And I feel like if you left Rift alone, like if they were like, right, we need to contest this Elder Dragon, and Rift was left alone, he would really just be able to take the whole base.
Yeah.
I think that they try to be a bit too smart and they made some mistakes. Because, you know, they had the gold lead even at the end of the game. I think they had some right ideas about things. So I don't think you can really go away from that and go, oh, you know, we played terrible. But at the same time, you lost regardless.
Yeah.
But now in the unfavorable position of being, we're 1-0 down. And here's the big problem for me, is you're now going to be on blue side, Diabolus going to be on that red side. They have the counter pick for top lane. You can't just anticipate you're going to have a good matchup for Rift.
And he was the kind of one of the big win conditions for Enclave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a tricky one to find a similar situation. I feel like the draft is going to have to be different.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go for a very short break, but when we get back, we've got our second game in this semi-final. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be a corker.